Hi there, and welcome to the delight of photography. And the delight of photography is what we're talking about today and with all the previous talks we've done here. If you're new to this channel, thank you for joining us. We hope you're going to find it very interesting. It would be good if you click the subscribe button, bottom right hand corner, because that'll take you into a list of all the videos that we've done so far. And you can have a look at this. It's a course in a nutshell, really. And it's done in 10-minute intervals because it makes it easy to understand. And many people have found that very useful. So right now we're talking about capturing your vision, which really is building up from the course so far in terms of how to use your camera, how to understand your camera. And now we talk about how you capture things with your camera in a way that's going to please you. So if you guys who've been with us for some time, thank you for continuing to enjoy it. So let's move on. Capturing your vision, making the most of what you see. Your photography, your camera, your image. So to start off with, we're going to talk about the power of the line. And you need to bear in mind that when you look at any vision through your viewfinder or look at where you're going to be taking the image, if there are any strong lines, whatever they might be, remember your viewer's eye is automatically going to follow those lines. And you can use that creatively. So let's have a look at some examples. You can guide your viewer's eye. So in this case, you're taking the viewer straight into the middle of the picture and out of the back, basically. Alternatively, you can take him to the left, or even alternatively, you can take the eye to the right. You can control where your viewer's eye goes in your image. If you take this view, nice coastal thing, waves on the right. If you have a look at the edge of the water, it's useful, but it doesn't really work well. So you wait, and sometimes if you're very lucky, the water will do this. So now the edge of the water will guide the viewer's eye from the front through down up to the right to the end of all the buildings and across all the buildings and looking at all the reflections. So it turns into a pretty nice photograph. If you have a look here, the first thing you really tend to see is the statue, because the line, albeit it's a curved line, takes you right to the statue. Alternatively, you can take the view to the statue in a slightly different way. Or else you can decide, I'm going to take them from the left across to the right and then still back to the statue. Depending what you want the viewer to see will depend on what you actually do in guiding him. And here, the eye goes in many ways straight to that tiny little white cottage way at the back, because that's how strong the white lines are. Here, straight down the middle. Powerful, but straight down the middle. Here, the wandering eye through this landscape. Sometimes just to add some interest, you can add a person, but the eye will still now see the person straight away and tends to look beyond the person as well. The eye goes into the and then round the corner, following the railway line. Or in this case, following the road, starts from the right and curves around and disappears off to the right. But it will still see, the viewer will still see the wonderful yellow canola. This is gives a calm feeling because the eye wanders backwards and forwards across the image, and it gives a calm, peaceful feeling. Continuing the calm, peaceful feeling, you've got these clouds wafting across the sky. And this is dramatic because it takes the viewer's eye straight out of the picture. So if you're showing people images of your photographs, this is not the one you show first. You show this right at the end because it's a great finale picture to any presentation. So that's the power of the line. Now let's talk a bit about balance and harmony, which is very important to how your images look. So there's some basic rules, or I prefer to call them tools, of composition, which will help you compose a successful picture. Because many of these so-called rules are not new to photographers. They come from the world of art, and they have existed for some hundreds of years sometimes. It's just that photographers make use of them because they work. But they shouldn't be followed slavishly. It's just important to understand them because they are quite useful. And then if you want to break them, that's fine. But you should understand why you are breaking them. They're a great help. But the key point is that the main subject should be placed in an area of visual emphasis. Now, what is visual emphasis? For example, a quick sideline to get a comment from the photographer Ansel Adams. No rules for good photographs. You're only good photographers. I think it's a better way of putting it. Whatever. The rule of thirds, you divide up the image in the viewfinder into thirds. And many cameras will now give you this division that you can have it on your viewfinder to help you. And then you get 4 cross points, and they are areas of visual emphasis. Rule of thirds, areas of visual emphasis. And it works. You should put whatever you want to take the picture of, whatever the main item is, you put it on one of those little blobs. For example, you can look at this picture. The moon and the reflection are sort of on the thirds. The guy on the right standing there, you should ask him to move in a bit to balance the moon. But as we know from experience, when you shout to people or call to people and say, please move, they will tend to move in the opposite direction. People are strange, and that's life. This is rule of thirds almost perfectly with the lights and the reflection of the lights. It's a bit too much on the left, but I just like that, so I left it like that. My photograph, I treat it my way. Here the rule of thirds is just underneath the ship at the top, just a third of the way down. That serves to balance the whole picture. I have had comments from people that said the boat at the bottom has got nowhere to go, which shows they have been listening as we go through the course. And then the debate is, where do you put your horizon? And really there are only 2 points, and you decide what's going to suit your image. You can put it in the middle, which is not too bad, or else you can put it at the bottom. Basically, it's not really worth ever putting it at the top, because the top doesn't really work so well. But your choice. Now, if you take this thistle, this is just to make the point that it doesn't have to be on the rule of thirds. This is where you're using color. And wherever you put this thistle, the eye will see it. Because the color is so strong. Think about it. We'll talk more about color in a few minutes. Here the rule of thirds is across the horizon and the rocks in the foreground, and it balances the composition. Here the rule of thirds is across the bottom, the horizon. Once again, it balances the composition. Sometimes you just have to take the picture. Forget about a rule of thirds or anything. You take what you think looks good. But bear in mind, if the subject depends on symmetry, the best position may well be central or in the middle. And many people will say to you, never put things in the middle, it's a boring composition. But sometimes you have to put things in the middle, because otherwise the image won't have the same impact. can have impact. This is slightly off to the left, still more or less towards the middle. And sometimes when you're doing reflections like this, that's the option. You have to put it in the middle. Otherwise, you're not going to get the beautiful balanced reflection that you would like to get. In the middle. Just works having him in the middle. And this has to be the middle, obviously, because that's where the plane is. So as we mentioned earlier, color can be used to visually balance the image because color is so strong. The first thing you see looking at this image is the smallest item, which is the tiny little red shell, because that's how powerful color is. And here you've got a green parakeet. And here you've got a group of people, and the lady in red on the right balances the wodge of guys in blue on the left. Gives a sense of balance to the image. And here you've got a big wodge of orange on the right with all the lights, but because the blue on the left is so strong, it balances the image. And here you've got the red engine nacelles. That balances the whole wodge of aluminium color that's all over the rest of the photograph. It gives balance, and it's very strong and very useful. The red sail on the ship, yacht, very nice, just balance. And here you've got, once again, sunset, color on the roads, they all fit together quite well. So think about that. All the things we talk about are things that you will practice as you take photographs. And as you take photographs with more and more thought, you're going to find that these things become almost second nature to you. And you're going to enjoy your photography so much more because you're not thinking all the time, you're just doing what comes naturally. So thank you for taking the time to join us. This is talk 5 we've just had, and in a couple of days I'll be posting talk 6. But I hope you found them interesting. I hope you find it useful, really. And well, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks very much. Cheers.